All right, thank you. All right, we can start here in 3, 2, 1, go. All right, so as they said, my name is ZGL, and I'm going to try to take you on a tour of Resident Evil 7 100% New Game Plus. So on 100%, we have just a crazy amount of extra stuff that we got to do compared to like our regular any percent run. Naturally, we have a lot of items we have to pick up to complete that. So some of the items that we're going to be grabbing are antique coins. We're going to have to break Mr. Everywhere bobbleheads, and we have to read, there's 32 files that we're going to have to read while we're going through this. In addition to those things, we have to pick up and use 4 steroids. We also have to pick up and use 2 stabilizers. And in order to do all of that, there's all kinds of extra stuff that we have to pick up to access these things. So there's just, if you've ever seen, a Resident Evil 7 speedrun before, it's probably been any percent. There's not a crazy amount of people that do the 100% run, and as far as I'm aware, this is the very first time 100%'s ever been in any marathon. So I'm pretty excited to be bringing it to everybody. So before we get too far into anything, I wanted to say that any time that I miss either a shot or with a melee on the Mr. Everywhere bobbleheads, I'm going to donate $1 to the Game Over Cancer for the marathon. So if you guys want to try to keep count of that while I'm going through, that would be awesome. And then also, while we're going through the run, when I break the Mr. Everywhere bobbleheads, let's try to keep a running count and chat over those as well. And the reason why I say that is that at the end of the game, there's a statistics screen that shows all the things that we've collected. And when we get to that, it's no matter what going to say that I have 20 out of 20, because it just tells you what you've collected throughout the throughout your run, or throughout the time that you've played it ever. So since I've already done this once or twice before, it's no matter what going to just tell me that I've got 20 out of 20. So a quick rundown of kind of what's going on in the story for those of you that have never seen Resident Evil 7. Ethan is our main character, got a mysterious email from his wife who disappeared 3 years ago. Her name is Mia, and basically she said, "I'm in Dulvey, Louisiana, come get me." So Ethan jumped in a car and just drove straight down here, and here we are. One of the things that are really important in this speedrun is all of our movement. So anytime that you see that I'm going to be turning around a corner or something, we're going to be hugging a wall, pretty typical things for 3D, like first-person shooter kind of games. But we want to keep our movement pretty tight. There's a few places where it's easy to snag against invisible walls and things of that sort. And then we also have to make sure that we are always looking in the right place. And I know that sounds really weird, but if you have the camera too high or too low sometimes, the interact buttons that pop up for different items will not appear from the furthest distance that you can get them to appear from. So as we enter the guest house here, we're going to do our first kind of trick. We're going to pause here, and in the top left-hand corner we have the autosave icon that just popped up. This is going to allow us to hit retry. Now, since Resident Evil 7 is timed via the in-game timer instead of RTA, this doesn't lose us time having to deal with this load screen. What this is going to do is it reloads the game, and it makes it forget that we're supposed to be moving at a slower speed. Now, it kind of looks like we're moving the same way we were before, because the speed that we're at is the same as the outdoor running speed, and anytime that you're outside, your movement speed is actually a lot quicker. There's 3 times that we're going to use that during this run. 2 of them are in the guest house, and 1 of them is towards the end of the game in the salt mines. On the PC, they have a good number of extra ones that are like 1 second time saves here and there for teleports and things of that sort. but because the in-game timer starts before the load screen is out, those 1 second time saves are lost for us on console. So if you have watched Resident Evil 7 speedruns before, you're going to notice something new here. Like I said, most people don't do 100%, so you probably have never really seen this video if you've watched people doing Res 7 speedruns. We have to get into this video to use this lockpick here. We're going to open or unlock a drawer now in the past in this video that's going to allow Ethan to actually open that drawer up in the future. I guess it's present day. So you get to kind of sit through this little moment with Pete and Clancy and all of these guys. So one of the cool things about this, and you can't see him because the brightness is turned up so much, this gentleman here is actually the actor that both his face is taken from and his voice and everything is one of the developers of the game, and he's actually given quite a few what do you call them? He's been at like a bunch of conferences and is kind of given some pretty cool details about the game. So like I said, the only reason we came into this video was to unlock that drawer. So as soon as we ended that, we just kind of come back out and continue on like we were on any percent. The 100% run doesn't require us to finish. There's like 3 extra videos that you don't ever see in the any percent round or run because they're just extra and you don't have to touch those. They're also not required for this run. Like I said, the first one, the only reason we go into it is just to unlock that drawer. Otherwise we miss a coin that we have to collect. So we're about to come up on our next trick for the game. It's slightly more skilled than hitting retry after pausing the game. Really, it's just kind of going to be moving and, again, kind of having our camera looking in a specific direction. I mentioned that before because that camera is really kind of... I think that it's easy for a lot of the runners of this game to kind of forget that it's so important because we just do it and we don't think about it. But if I turn this camera exactly at this angle, I could go further to the right, but doing it this way gave me kind of the ability to stay forward a little bit. I was able to push against that wall and avoid an animation where a dead body would pop up and cause me to fall backwards, and it would lose me like 6 to 8 seconds. I don't remember the exact time on it. So now we're down here, we've got these bolt cutters, and we're going to get Mia out of this little basement cell that she's being kept in. So one of the tricks that I'm going to use a lot throughout the run, and I've used it a couple of times already, is what we call the quick pickup. We also just kind of call it quick turn. There's a few different names for it, but overall what it is we're going to grab an item at the same time that we're going to use the game's built-in 180 degree turning around function. And that's going to give us the ability to kind of be ready to run. You know, most of the time if we're using it, we have to go the other direction directly afterwards. And then in cases like this, I can already have that item turned around where I'm looking at the back side of it when I pick it up. So that letter over there, the front side of it counts as one of our files that we have to read, and then the back side of it counts as a second file. That email that was in my inventory already is the third file that we needed to read. And then that's going to be all of the files from the guest house. Everything else is going to start, like all the other files will start up once we're in the main house again. There's one other 100% item that's left for us to get, and that's going to be the coin that we unlock the drawer for. And we'll get to that here shortly. So I already kind of mentioned that movement is a really important factor in getting kind of a good time for the speedrun. And the other really important thing is going to be menuing. Right now I've got my menu set up so that I'm going to be able to use those bolt cutters and then very quickly use an item that's going to pop up later. Real fast, I'm going to kind of tell you there's a little glitch right here that we're going to watch. If you notice, Mia's talking but her mouth doesn't move. If we're standing this far to her side, just her mouth never moves. and it's just kind of one of those silly little things that they kind of overlooked when they put the game out. If we were standing like right in front of her or something like that, we would have been able to have seen like actual mouth movement there. But so what I was talking about with the menuing, we're gonna have an item that, like I said, is gonna pop up in that left spot. And then that's also going to leave my menuing available so that once we're in the main house, I'm already set up for using the first item that we're going to pick up there too. All throughout the run, really knowing where your menu is at and how well things are set up, basically knowing exactly where everything's going to fall into your menu is very important. And 100% sometimes I get a little messed up with my key cards, and we'll get to those later, but every once in a while I put them in the wrong place. I don't know. It's just one of those things that happens with me. So right here, we're going to listen kind of close. There's going to be 2 sounds from a piano, 2 little tones. And after the second tone plays, there's about 4.2, 4.3 seconds until Mia's going to be grabbed. Knowing that, we can kind of jump the animation a little bit. And usually a lot of the runners that do this game, they don't know exactly the time on that, but they will just kind of wait for the scream from Mia to pop up. You can actually move slightly before she screams, and it really saves such a minuscule amount of time that it's actually kind of crazy to go for that, because if you do go for it early, you're going to lose like 2 or 3 seconds in that spot. So anybody that has not watched Resident Evil 7 or has never seen the game at all, be aware there's a lot of violence in this game. There's definitely some language and a lot of, we'll say, gore. One of the things that we're going to do here is, as soon as we stand up and get control of Ethan again, we're going to run right here. We went straight towards her to start this animation up as fast as possible. That way, we're not wasting time by letting her run up to us beforehand, because the animation's going to end and take the same amount of time no matter what we do. So running forward and letting her stab us faster really just kind of gives us a little speed boost. So here in a moment, Mia's going to knock herself out, and after she does this, we have our first kind of skill-based, skill-based trick here. We have both a timer and a proximity trigger that we have to deal with, and what we're going to do is we're going to just move forward slightly. If we move too far forward or we don't move forward far enough, Mia's not going to stand up in like the optimal time. And I'm hoping that I did that. I feel like one of those was a little bit further than it needed to be, but we're going to stand and stare at her for a moment, and if she stands up, we're good. There we go. We got it. I did feel like I overdid one of those, and this is going to lead us into our first boss fight, the Mia 1 boss fight. It goes really quick. If I do it correctly, which I'm not doing it correctly, but if I did it correctly, this was going to be a 2-hit thing. And then we're going to kind of throw her off and end the fight. Like I said, it was a very quick boss fight. What I needed to do there initially was crouch down, and when I went to click, it didn't actually crouch for me. I think I was still clicking the run button on the other joystick, but it ended up being a pretty decent fight considering we messed that first part up. Yes, Azuma, we needed to ask her a question. So one of the things about the axe in this game is that really all the melee weapons in this game are that the engine kind of treats them. They didn't really. I feel like they couldn't have tested them that great because they clip a lot. Oh Lord, that shouldn't be playing. Somebody, I thought I had those turned off. Anyways, the axe is gonna sound kind of crunchy because when we get up to this next fight with Mia, because we're gonna try to force a really strong clip hit on her, and we'll get to that here in a couple moments. Sorry about that, Strizer. Didn't mean to leave those on. I thought I turned them off. But there we went ahead and we picked up our coin, and we're gonna go ahead and use our fuse that we just picked up out of that cabinet. I mentioned earlier that we were gonna very quickly get to use that item that we were gonna pick up, and that was it. So, to explain the different language and everything here, this version of the game is actually not the typical version that you would pick up if you just go to the store. Because of speedrunning, we play on a Japanese censored version of the game. It's the Sero D. It's kind of like their version of the ESRB or like PEGI for whatever country you might be from. So moments like this where normally we would see Ethan get his hand cut off, they black out the screen and Ethan doesn't have to lose his hand. Because these changes are made to the game where there's just a number of times where animations are either changed or completely dropped, we end up saving about 25 seconds of time over the other versions of the game. There's another censored version in Japan, and it's the Sero Z version. They called it the grotesque version in Japan, and it basically is a slightly censored version, as opposed to this one that has the additional censorship. The reason why the language is set, because even on the Japanese version, the default language is English. The reason why we do the different language is now it's more that I'm just kind of used to it than anything else, but it just has some time that gets saved. Oh, I missed the... So, we kind of missed our initial hit, so this is going to take a little bit longer than it normally would. We got her. Unfortunately, I missed that first hit. Was not supposed to be standing. That's like the second time in a row that I was fighting Mia and stood up instead of being crouched down where I was supposed to be. But normally that fight, we would get a real good first hit, and it would kind of sound like I was kind of talking about before, a little bit crunchy, because we would hear that axe clip through and hit her multiple times in one swing. The best that we can do on console for that fight is a 2-hit Mia. Practicing that earlier, I got one of those. Of course, I wasn't going to be able to get one on stream, and obviously it decided, oh hey, let's make it just, you know, the worst Mia fight you could do on stream. But we still have a pretty decent time coming out of the guest house. I kind of like... I am screwing it up, Shadowgill. I kind of forgot to not check it. I was telling myself before I got into this I wasn't going to do little time checks and just muscle memory. As soon as I see Mia dead, it just immediately went to it. But we're just a few seconds behind my PB time in that particular fight, so it's not too bad. So one of the things I think is hilarious is we just saw that Zoe was stapling our hand back on here, but because it didn't get cut off because of the different version, there's no staples in his hand, and that's just one of those things that's kind of left over. It's hilarious that it just kind of got left over that way. They didn't decide to do something different with that scene, so we get to see the stapler there but no staples. I don't know, I always kind of get a little chuckle from it. And here we're gonna meet the family. This is pretty much, these guys are all of our enemies from the game. We've got Grandma, Lucas, Jack, and Marguerite. We call Marguerite Marge, though. Jack, as we're seeing here, is a little aggressive. He's got some issues. He gets called Daddy a lot in this game, which, you know, is kind of fun, and he gives me daddy issues because he's kind of a jerk. But he if you actually look up Jack Baker's resume, his official job title is Killer of Speedruns, and you're gonna see that because he's the person, we're gonna deal with Jack a lot in this game. No, Jack just went ahead and gave us a nice little cut on our cheek. He thought we were a little too pretty. I guess Ethan looks better than someone like me, so he wanted to kind of just mess that up a little bit. Too good of a canvas. Alright, so what we're about to do here is actually kind of a newer skip compared to like a year ago when I did any percent in this marathon. We didn't have this skip. Hopefully we can get it. We're going to do this Jack hallway, and Jack reacts 3 different ways. He's either going to grab us, he's going to try to hit us with a shovel, or he's going to try to get a hold of us and miss. The most ideal situation now is for Jack to try to grab a hold of us and miss. We used to hope that he would try to get us with a shovel. So this is the most ideal situation. And when we run back through, I'm going to crouch and force Jack to try to hit the ground. Now, he might be too far back for me to do this. He is. That sucks. So ideally, he would have been just slightly further back where we wouldn't have been able to see his shovel. And what would have happened is Jack would have busted through that wall because he would have teleported in, and it would have let us kind of run straight in from right there to this spot right here. That's kind of a really touchy trick, and it's one of the more RNG feeling ones. Realistically, as long as your movement is pretty consistent, you can get him to do what you want. If I would have slowed down a little bit on moving around him while crouched, he would have stayed over where I needed him to be. Alright, so earlier I mentioned keeping track of the Mr. Everywheres. The first one is right here, and this is what they look like for everybody that is going to try to help keep track of all these things. And like I said, we're going to have to shoot them or hit them with a knife or a saw or something to break all of them. And there are 20 of them, so if you guys want to help keep track of them, once I destroy it, that would be awesome. Oop. Alright, there's one. And we didn't miss it, so I'm not at $1 donation yet. Okay, so coming up is going to be the first time that we have any of the censorship in the game that's going to give us a time save. This censorship is going to cause Jack's location in the garage during this upcoming boss fight to start just a little bit different than it does in all the other versions of the game. And the reason why is instead of beating this body that's going to be laying on the ground, he's going to snap his shovel and then turn around to grab another one. I don't know, they wanted to give him something to do for a moment. So he snaps his shovel and he turns around and grabs another one off of a shelf. This changes where he's located, and it saves us about 1.5 seconds over other versions of the game from this fight. And then because of the manner in which the person is killed in a moment, it's also going to save us time later on, because we're not going to have a very long animation getting a key from this person later on. I'm trying not to ruin it in case anybody's not seen this before. So this nice little moment kind of lets you just relax for a moment before you go into your first Jack fight, and then we're off to the races. So there's a couple different ways that you can do the Jack 1 boss fight. The one that I'm going to do is a little bit riskier because it involves a pretty precise shot towards the end. Like the last shot that we're going to take is kind of precise. If you're a little too early or a little too late, you're going to hit his invincibility frames with it. And like I said, it'll be the last shot that we do once Jack gets in the car. And so the reason why we go for that version of the fight instead of doing it the old way is it saves us like 0.5 seconds on this fight. Oh hell, I shot early. There we go. That was not the shot I was talking about that we could miss though. This is the one. Alright, so we got Jack there. That first shot, you're supposed to wait until Jack actually knocks that shelf down, and I shot maybe like a couple of frames too early before he had his little shovel thing destroyed it. Alright, get our menu set up. Now, earlier when I was talking about the quick pickup that we use, we're going to use that here in just a moment to do what's called the shelf cancel, as long as I hit the trick perfectly. We're going to pick up this picture frame that has this ox statue that we need to open that door that we touched earlier. And we're going to do that so that when we pick up the frame, we're going to be looking at the back of it so that we can quickly get the ox to start unlocking. And then we're going to do another quick turn and try to cancel out of that. And we missed that because we were looking too high. Normally we try to turn back around where we can see the icon on the shelf, and it would cancel out so that we wouldn't finish our 180 quick turn again. And it just kind of saves us about a second if you do both of those right. So when we come to the end of this hall, we're going to have a Mr. Everywhere at the end of it, and then we're also going to be opening this door. That's $1. We got our next Mr. Everywhere, so there's 3 Mr. Everywhere so far. Alright. Now we're going to come upstairs. We're going to go ahead and do a little bit more of our 100% stuff after we get this next dog head. And then we're going to be starting up a long process that actually last year when I was running, I had said that it wasn't, we're going to use something that I said we weren't able to do. Last year when I was running, I said that we had knowledge of an out of bounds, but we had no way to use it for the speedrun. Since that time, one of our runners figured out a way to make it something that we can do. So this is all going to start with using the jack kite that we've used since pretty early on in the game, where we're going to go ahead and make Jack stumble upstairs, and then we're going to come down, and these shots, that shot really wasn't necessary to get his attention, but I'm so used to doing it. We used to think that you had to take those shots to get Jack to come down the stairs, but you don't have to. And then we read a file there and another file there while doing all of that. Now we're getting Jack's attention here. Since this wall doesn't break, we want to make sure that Jack's kind of caught up to us a little bit so that he doesn't break through that wall. And then we're going to turn around and shoot him above his legs to make him stumble again. If we shot him in the legs instead of above the legs, he actually would have died, and it would completely mess up the out of bounds trick. So even though we're not going to use the space behind this painting after doing the shadow puzzle here, we still have to do this shadow puzzle for this out of bounds trick to work. Otherwise the game will soft walk on us. So we're going to get Jack to follow us up the stairs. There's a slightly faster way of doing this. It's not exactly marathon safe, so we're not going to do it. When I say slightly faster, I do mean like a couple seconds. And we're out of bounds. So after we're out, we're going to run around all of this bit of the house, and we're going to go over to where these stairs are at. Really, the only way to get back inbounds after you're out is to find a slope and then fall in from above it. His arms. That's funny. It's pretty good. I actually was really struggling with getting out of bounds this week when I was practicing, so I'm pretty excited that that actually happened right in the run. So right here is normally a little puzzle where you have to read this file in order to know the order of when to open all of these. Now we still have to read that file in order to do our 100%, but we don't need to do, you know, I don't have to do it so that I know what order to open those incinerators. If you haven't noticed, this is like the most standard American... Oh, I forgot to menu over. That's unfortunate. I was gonna say though, this is like the most standard American basement that you've ever seen. It's got all of the makings of a great horror flick. I love how just rusted everything in this house is. It really brings on that like no one's lived here, even though people live here. Now this is gonna be the second Jack boss fight that we're gonna do. And it has bodies hanging. We're gonna try to get this shot just the right time. If we waited at all, any bit longer than what we just did there, we would have been grabbed. And if we went any earlier than we did, we would have hit invincibility frames. And then again, that was also a really good shot. This is like an excellent Jack 2 boss fight, where we took the shot the moment that he came out of his iframes again. There's a little bit more leeway on that second shot with him, because the second shot we could wait until he moves forward just a little bit, but by getting it basically the moment he comes out of iframes, it's our most optimal situation. So that's another one of those moments where we saved a little bit of time due to the censorship. Normally Jack's upper half of his body was going to explode, and his legs and waist were going to stand up and take a few steps, and then they'd fall back down before you could open the door. By having this version of the game, since they don't have any dismemberment in this version, his upper half, you still hear the explosion sound, but he just falls and his body stays where it's at. And that way we end up saving 10 seconds. Now, when we came over here, we skipped that key because we basically are out of inventory space. One of the things about 100% is that you just have so many things that you have to pick up. And by going to the picture first, it allowed us to delete that item. We had to pick it up in order to be able to look or to grab one of the items that we're going to get later on, but we don't have to keep it with us in order to do it. And that file that we just did was another one of those where we had to read the front for one side and then the back for another. So now we're going to go ahead and get our inventory set up, and we're going to get moving. So after grabbing this coin, we've got a Mr. Everywhere over here. Hopefully I can get him in one shot. I got him! And then we're going to come in here and do what's called the Santos skip. And really it's just moving in and out of the door really quickly in a way where you don't force yourself to pause. The reason why we need to move in and out of the door is because the phone doesn't start ringing until it thinks that you're leaving the trailer. So by going in just a little bit and then backing out just a tiny bit, it gave us the ability to well, have this phone go off really quick. Oh man. So one of the things that you're going to see here in just a moment, since I play on the PlayStation 4, we have a few issues that nobody else gets. The Xbox doesn't have this problem. The PC does not have this problem. It really is a specific to PS4 problem, where there are certain areas of the game where we're moving too quick and the PlayStation 4 doesn't load it very well. This happens on like the PlayStation, the PS4 Pro, just as well as on the Slim or the original version. And we get these black loading screens that come in that just basically make you freeze in place for a moment. You're going to see that just after we enter the second door of the old house that we're going into right now. And when we get in here, I'm going to pause the game as soon as we enter this room, because you're going to see, like I said, the screen's going to go black, and those can last for a decent amount of time sometimes. And by pausing it, it keeps the in-game timer from continuing during that black load screen. Alright. So we got another Mr. Everywhere coming up right here. And we got him. Alright. So coming into this door, we wanted to have our saw ready to go before we get to the door, so that the moment we gain control again, we can start sawing and kind of get rid of all of the bugs that were on there. If we didn't have the axe out, or the saw out ahead of time, then we would actually have to like crouch and look up and down the door there in order to get all of the bugs off of it. Hey, Deceiving Ralph. It's nice to see you, man. So right here, we're going to go out to this little shack. This is one of the other deviations from like the any percent route. And we're not specifically coming out here for this. We're coming out to destroy that Mr. Everywhere. But fortunately, that backpack's there because, as we just kind of saw a moment ago, we're getting low on the inventory space. And, you know, it's great to get a little extra time or extra space there, because we have a lot more items to pick up. Without that, there would be some significant rerouting that would have to be done for this. We'd probably pick up one of the backpacks inside the main house, but even at that point, we would have needed to probably grab that without the Mr. Everywhere being out there anyways, just to make sure that we had the space ahead of time. So that's kind of, it's fortunate that those are right next to each other, basically. Now, one of the reasons why we kept our running shoes that we had earlier, and there was another one of the Mr. Everywheres, is that anytime that you're crouched like this, the running shoes, or the walking shoes I guess is what they're called, let you move at your normal like standing walking speed instead of a really slowed crouched speed. Now that we're up and out of there, we're gonna go back through that room that we went through earlier. And after taking those first 2 shots, we're going to take 2 more shots into this disgusting bug sack. And it's going to get rid of it so we don't have to crouch under it again. And now we're going to make a straight line over to this radiator and go around Marge. And because we did that line, she was unable to see us. Even though we were just directly in front of her, she was unable to see us. When we come out to this next area, this little shack back here, we're gonna start to open this box and then grab this key off the back of this toilet before we grab the key out of the box. There's a slight animation for it opening that you have to wait for before you can get anything. That happens with a lot of the things that we have to grab. If it's inside of something, there's like a tiny animation that you would normally have to wait for before you can do, you know, grab whatever it is that was inside of the drawer or the box or whatever. So fortunately, we had something that we could do during that time and kind of kept us from losing time. And hello, Marge. So here's going to be our first Marge boss fight. It's going to go really quick if I do it right. Hopefully I do it right. Most of these boss fights you kind of notice are a little quick. There we go. We got it. At first I thought that for my initial shot with the Albert gun hit the wood and not her, but kind of thankfully they had the blood spotter so I could see it. Alright, so we're going to get that note right there before we forget to do it. And then we're going to come up, and the back of this is a file that we have to read for 100%, but we were going to have to read this file no matter what. So we're going to quick turn off of it so that we can immediately come over and get the phone as soon as that's over with. So here next, normally we used to have to run up the stairs over here and go stare at a lantern, like where a lantern goes, before we would be able to continue through the game. But another trick was found one month after I did my run for this marathon last year, where we found a new way to do this. There's actually like 2 parts to this trick. There's the initial part, which is the lantern skip, and then there's looking into this pit a specific way to be able to drop in and make Marguerite spawn the way that she's supposed to. So the first part, we're going to come around here and look up, and that was long enough for us to make the lantern skip. We missed the Marguerite part, so I'm going to have to climb this ladder again. If I was looking a little bit more to the right, we would have gotten this to have happened while we were still down there, so we wouldn't have had to have climbed and jumped back down here again. We did get the first part of the skip, which saves a considerable amount of time because we're not running all the way around the stairs up there and then coming back down before we could do this. The second part of that just lost us maybe a few seconds, and I don't remember off the top of my head how much. Like I said, it's been almost a year since we found that one. The first part of that trick I want to say was found by chance, I believe. And then the second trick there, the one that I missed, was found by Ross Rossi. Ross was also the one that found the way to utilize the out of bounds trick. So here we're going to start up the Marguerite 2 boss fight. Wow, almost missed that. We needed to get all of those shots in on her in order to make this work. So I'm happy we got them all. And I'm kind of doing this the old way instead of doing it the new way. And that was a really quick boss fight. And we're going to get rid of some inventory stuff. Okay. Now my inventory is all set up so that it'll go pretty smoothly from here on. There's a newer way to do that boss fight, but in my practicing it here lately, I was missing it a lot. So instead of going that other route, I figured for the marathon I'd go the safer way. The other part about that other way of doing that boss fight is that if you're not perfect on it, the other way will actually lose you time. Like, you have to basically do it to a point where you look at the hole that Marguerite spawns in at this, like, right at the moment before she spawns in it in order to make it actually save you time. Otherwise, you're losing time doing it the other way. So now that we're upstairs, we're going to grab another file that's in this room over here. We're going to do it, well, missed the quick turn on it. I was going to say we're going to do it with a quick turn. And then we're going to break a Mr. Everywhere right here. Put that lantern in, grab a coin, turn back around, and that door's on a timer, so I always love getting back to the door before it opens. And now we're going to run through the upstairs portion of the old house. Now, the reason why I decided to get rid of my saw earlier instead of getting rid of the walking shoes, because more or less those seem like they're kind of a useless thing after you get to this point, is literally that little crouch that we just did there. Having the shoes on instead of getting rid of them, keeping those shoes basically saves us like a third of a second going in and a third of a second going out of this room. So we save, just over a half a second by doing that. And then that guy right there, there's on PC they have one of those retries that we were talking about where as soon as they kind of come out of the crouch, that little hole that was in the wall, they'll do a retry that makes that guy spawn in early. But every single enemy in this game has invincibility frames when they initially spawn. So when we came through there, like I mentioned earlier, it's one of those where it would be like a second that we would save time wise if we didn't lose time on console to the load screens. If we were on PC, we would do that retry and we'd be able to kill that with like a single headshot instead of having to take the 2 shots that I had to take there. So in this next area, normally in any percent, you're going to see somebody run up and they'll touch just the corner of this trailer. You're supposed to enter it, but there's actually the proximity trigger for it extends beyond the trailer here. And they wouldn't have to come in here. But because we're in 100%, we have a whole bunch of stuff that we have to pick up before we go back in. Alright. Now, this next area is gonna give us another place where we get one of those black loading screens sometimes. It's not always gonna happen on the PlayStation 4, and hopefully this is one of those times that it doesn't. But we're still gonna pause just in case it does, and we're gonna miss it, so we'll continue on. But that's one of the locations for one of the black loading screens that I was talking about earlier. So the reason why we're coming back down into this area is we have to get the snake key. And we're going to try to grab this after we perform a trick here. This is called the crawler skip. By coming in at this at a certain angle, we can just slide right by the crawler that came out of that wall there, and he despawns the moment that we enter those double doors. So that key that I just picked up is the biggest animation time save that we get due to the censorship. And there we go. We got him. That was one of the Mr. Everywheres. The amount of time that's saved off of completely skipping the animation there is about 13 seconds. So that's need an Xbox. I actually have this game on Xbox. I prefer it on the PS4. That animation actually normally shows you reaching down the esophagus of the decapitated deputy, but because we didn't decapitate the deputy, and that was another of our Mr. Everywheres, because we didn't decapitate the deputy, we didn't have the ability to reach down his throat to grab the key. So that, just like I said, it saves us a decent chunk of time just because we don't have to do that. I'm kind of amazed that I've only missed like one thing so far on the on like one shot so far on these Mr. Everywheres. Alright, so this area is, you would think that we would be able to skip it since we don't have to go get this red key card anymore, but as I mentioned, there's some things that we still have to do to make the game think that we're still playing everything the way we're supposed to be, in order for us to not soft lock here in a couple minutes because of that out of bounds trick that we did earlier. Now, oh, there's a miss, so of course I had to go and miss after I said something. So it's $2 I'm donating. Alright. Now, one of the things that you're kind of noticing is that all of our 100% items tend to get scrunched up. So like when there's one of them, you end up with a whole bunch of them all in one area. Part of that's the routing, but it's also just kind of funny how they ended up doing that. I missed another one. There's $3. We'll come back and take a shot on him here in a minute. But first we're going to get this axe, which is something that you only get in the 100% run. So this is a little bit more of a precise shadow puzzle, but one of the things that I've learned about it is that actually if you're a little to the left, as you kind of saw there, I didn't have to have it perfectly lined up with the actual painting itself. By being a little to the left there, it let me go ahead and basically finish that shadow puzzle, even though I wasn't really like perfectly lined up for it. So after getting all of that done, we're just going to go ahead and run straight out the front door, or I guess the back door here. It weirds me out that the front door is like not part of the main hall. It's just like the weirdest thing. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and take a shot on this guy and kill him. Now there's another one going to spawn over here, but as soon as we enter this secret area back here, he goes away. Now this is the easiest shadow puzzle in the game, and it's because you can be really far off from where the thing actually is at and still hit it. Oh, of course. I mentioned earlier, at the very, very early on, that I mess up my keycards on 100%, and that was me messing up my keycards on 100%. I did tell you it was going to happen. Alright, so here we're going to have the Lucas TV, and that's going to take a while to kind of watch, but one of the things in this area that having issues much? Yeah. One of the things in this area that is of interest to those of us that do run the game is very early on we had a couple of instances that we got to see, one from a casual player and one from a speedrunner, where when they came into this room, the TV exploded early, and it allowed them to get up and carry on with the rest of the game We're not 100% certain exactly what causes this to happen. If we could replicate it, that would be amazing because it would cut about 2 minutes off of the run. And at this time, it's not something that anybody knows how to force. It's only ever been seen on the PlayStation 4 though, so it could be a loading issue, it could be something else. It's just one of those things that nobody knows how to make it happen, but we all want to know. If it does occur in a run at this point, it's something that our community has banned because it's not something that's able to be replicated by anybody, like with any intent. But if we could figure out how to force that to happen, that would be an amazing, like I said, right around like 2 minutes, because the 2 times that we've seen it, the TV exploded early, but in different times. So we don't have any idea what causes it. But that would be one of those things that would be really cool to figure out. So the next area that we're going to run into has a whole lot of trip mines, basically. And we're going to use a relatively inaccurate gun to try to accurately shoot all of them. The G17 is one of these weird weapons where it's wildly accurately inaccurate. Sometimes it doesn't hit the thing that's in front of you like a foot, and other times you can hit something that's a mile away like you had pinpointed it. So we got our first 2. We're going to come into this room and miss that shot, so we're going to go ahead and come in. Getting that one from behind the door is actually pretty difficult on console. It's a lot easier on PC. But that wasn't a terrible trip mine room. It wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible. And then we're going to run in here, and we came in on the right side of that door, because if we would have come in any further to the left, we would have triggered both of the trip mines there, and we would have basically exploded ourselves. It wouldn't have killed us, but it would have knocked us down. By blocking when we hit the other one, the one that was like on the ground, we just kind of knocked back for a moment, and then we run around, or we run forward. So we didn't want to put the key code in yet because there's no reason to do that. They're just trying to kill us, so had to get rid of all of the right things there and keep all of the other things. Alright, so in this next area, we're going to come up and there's going to be a mine here and we're going to shoot. And we're going to just kind of bully through this. There's multiple trip mines. As soon as we hear them trigger, you can block and get through them. And we're going to grab a coin, and then we got this guy to kill before we try to get out of here. There we go. That Mr. Everywhere that I just destroyed is one of them that is probably the most forgotten in the game. When you're doing a run, it's really easy to forget to pick up an item or destroy an item. I can honestly tell you that there are multiple runs that would have been PBs that I forgot just like one single item, and it was, kind of devastating. Okay, so now that we've got this battery put in here, obviously the little console just exploded on us. You didn't get to see it because we were turned around, but it's going to start up the Fat Molded Elevator boss fight, or more known as the barn fight. These shots don't do a lot. They definitely take down the health a little bit, but we can't kill this guy until the door is open. My first shot after it opened missed, went right between his legs. This game kind of has like the horror thing going on, but when you're watching somebody do the speedrun on it, we really avoid a lot of the horror aspects because it really is based around the atmosphere of the bakers, and since we're destroying the bakers pretty much every time we see them almost immediately, they don't really come across as scary. So what we did there was we used the 2 steroids and the 1 stabilizer that we have picked up already, and we deleted, and I've got air quotes with that, we deleted all of the New Game Plus items that we had in our inventory, because when you do that, it just throws them back into the bottom of your box, And that way, when we came in here, all that I had to put in the box was the coins. The reason why we had to do that is that this next area, we're not allowed to enter unless we have nothing in our inventory. So by emptying out our inventory first, we're able to basically just put those coins in and come in. We're gonna let Ethan take a shower. He's had a long day. He wants to relax, get a little Alka-Seltzer, just have a nice day. But we're gonna come over here and go ahead and do this next little saw-like puzzle. Lucas is kind of like the jigsaw killer. He sets traps and lets you kind of kill yourself. Normally, if you're playing this game casually, you're gonna see this whole thing play out with a different character first, because you would do one of the videos, and then you would know how to do the puzzle, and you could skip a couple of the steps when you come in, which is what we do, basically, as Ethan. If you follow the video exactly when you come in as Ethan, then you'll just kill yourself. I'm gonna be quiet for a moment when I do this. It seems really simple because all of that is like you move it 5 and then there it is. But anytime I ever talk during that section, I always end up just messing it up. So one of the things I didn't mention earlier is anytime that there's an animation like this where you end up getting pulled into it, you kind of want to be as close to where the animation starts as possible, because unlike some games where you just like instantly get pulled in and you start the animation up, it takes time to get pulled into most of the animations in the game. So you can lose a lot of time in your speedrun if you're not looking basically exactly where the animation starts each time that you start an animation. So you kind of saw like how I had to get pulled over before I could start doing where I'm ripping this off the wall here. If I would have been exactly in the right space, it would have just started off. I wouldn't have had to have waited at all. So after this bomb explodes, we're going to run through as quick as we can, and if we do it, we won't get any slowdown. Just the tiniest bit of slowdown on the end there, which is pretty good. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and get all of our items back out of our box. And we're not going to forget to shoot that guy. That's another one of them that often gets forgotten. And that was another example of a bad animation pull. You saw how I kind of slowly moved into position before he started actually doing the animation for cranking the bridge up. So this little area here is pretty simple. You know, we have some straight lines that we get to take through some curved areas, and then in this shack off to our right, we're going to try to take the God shot. There's little Mr. Everywhere, and we got him on the first shot. That's super ridiculous. The Mr. Everywhere is underneath of a net in that shack, and the way that we could see that he was destroyed is that there was a blue puff of smoke. So normally when I'm doing 100%, I can't hit that, but if I'm not doing 100%, I hit it like every time because it doesn't lose time to try to take it during the any percent run. So I got lucky this time. Now again, when I kind of mentioned about the invincibility frames that every enemy has, that guy, fortunately shooting him there kind of kept him from hitting me, but normally that shot would have been a little early and he would have taken a swing at me. I got really lucky that he decided that he was going to wait. I don't know what happened there, but it was kind of cool. You can't shoot him as he comes out because of those invincibility frames. So next up, we're going to have our Jack 3 boss fight, because the first 2 times were not enough to kill him. And this is one of the more complex fights in the game. There's actually a bit more work to do, and it takes a little longer than any of the other boss fights take. So there's a total of, I believe, 10 eyes that we have to destroy. The first 2 are pretty rough. well, the second one's pretty rough. And I'm gonna be quiet, like get focused for that shot. The first one's pretty simple because we're gonna shoot that one that's right in front of us right now. But the second shot, we're gonna look through the floorboards and try to hit without. Usually you can't even see it when we're gonna take the shot. So I'm gonna get focused here. All right, we got it. So now we're gonna drop down here. We could kind of see it a little bit there. And now we're gonna destroy the rest of these eyes. That floor, the one that was through the floorboard, is actually kind of difficult because there are a lot of hitboxes that kind of get in the way of your shot from up above. But the reason why we want to shoot that particular eye while we're up there is it's actually a lot more difficult to destroy it. Oh, come on. Well, that was rough. So there was a little mistake there. But by doing that shot from above, it kept us from having to deal with a really difficult shot of hitting that while it was completely underneath of his body under the water. Yeah, I moved a little too early away from the saw that I had on him. I shouldn't have done that, and we would have been fine. I just kind of moved a little early. I thought I had destroyed the that eye on his back before, well, when I started moving. I thought that's what I had done. So, am I doing this and commenting at the same time? It's a good question, Yas. It's a good question. So here we're going to go ahead and stab Jack in the eye with a serum because Zoe told us to use the cure on him. And so 107. So we're doing pretty good on time here. We're not, for, you know, being a marathon and everything and just going without any resets on some of these things that I've messed up. We're really doing pretty daggone good. I'm 1 second behind my console PB for this at this time, so just to kind of put into perspective where we're at. And my console PB did not have one of the tricks that we're going to try to do, so hopefully that means we're going to get a PB. That'd be cool, marathon PB. Now here is the major, like the really big choice that you get to make in Resident Evil 7. Do you save Mia or save Zoe? For speedrunning purposes, we are always going to save Mia. And the reason why is if you choose Zoe, the boat ride that we're about to take to get to the ship is, it just takes longer. There's more dialogue, so it takes longer to get to the ship. And then by choosing Zoe, you also add another Mia boss fight, so you get a third Mia boss fight. Zuma. By choosing Mia, we get to skip that boss fight. We get the shorter dialogue on the way there. And also, to me, it just makes sense to choose Mia because Zoe pretty much gave up her serum when she said, you know, cure Jack. So in this next section, there's gonna be a couple of skips that were found again, probably about within the couple of months after I did this run, the any % run in this marathon last year. And we had like a big couple of months. There was the out of bounds skip, there was the pit skip, there was the addition to the pit skip, which was Ross finding the well, it was the lantern skip, and then the pit skip was the addition to the lantern skip, because those were kind of two separate things that happened at the same time, both found by different people. And then we also had the Jack hallway skip that I missed. We didn't get to see him break through the wall during that initial hallway. And then we also have Binster159 found the biggest skip. This was someone who was not actually one of the runners of the game. He found the biggest time save, like individual time save that we have, which is just hilarious. And he came to our Discord and let us know that he had found this. We're going to be doing it here in a few minutes. We're going to hope that we're going to do it in a few minutes. I've actually been struggling with this particular skip, and it's lovingly called the vomit skip. That would it's like if you do it perfectly, it's a 20-second time save. So if you miss it, it's a big miss. And then shortly after we get that skip, another one was found during that same time frame last year, where we use a bomb to blow ourselves through some double doors. So, like I said, it was about a month. It was May and June of last year. All of these skips just started getting found. It was really crazy how that worked. Well, the reason why they couldn't both come wasn't because of no room on the boat. It was that if one of them showed up and they were still connected to Evie, then she would just kill them. They couldn't survive away from her. That's the reason why they couldn't get on the boat with him. So now we're playing as Mia instead of playing as Ethan. Ethan decided it's nap time. He's had enough. He's done a lot of running, been thrown around a little bit. It was too much for him. So he decided it was nap time. And apparently when you get grabbed by this mold stuff, it turns you into liquid and you can somehow like not be corporeal and you can go through things. I don't know how that works, but it's pretty cool. Maybe that's the secret to everything. I don't know. But Ethan's just taking a nap for the time being, and we're going to play as Mia. Mia's going to take us through the ship, and we're going to find out that Mia has a little bit more to do with everything that's going on than what we've initially been led to believe, by the fact that this entire game she keeps saying she doesn't know what's going on. And it seems like she has selective amnesia here because she tends to remember things when she needs to. So, I don't know. I'm just saying. So we're going to do a tight turn around on the stairs there. And we're going to go kind of wide here because there's a bunch of weird molded dead bodies there. They're just kind of stuck to the railing. It's kind of fun, you know? It's kind of fun. And then when we get in here, we're going to just kind of do a little turn around this helmet. And we're going to stand here. Our next 100% item that we're going to need to get is a coin that's in this drop-down section. And one of the things about this game in 100% is if you're not... if you forget to grab something, you're kind of just... your run's over. Because if you forget to grab this coin, as soon as you drop out of this little vent system here, you can't get back in here. So if you miss it on your way through, you just missed it. Anybody that has ever gone for the trophy or achievement for this game, where you get all of the coins, that's probably this one right here is probably the one that they've missed. And there's not a good save to get to this one. You just have to go all the way back before the Jak 3 boss fight to get to it. So it's kind of a rough thing to miss. On that end, the next coin that we're going to grab is another one that would not be able to be gotten back to after you leave the area, because they're going to seal the door shut after you get out of it. So here's a good spot for me to menu because our movement speed is like butt slow. We're just barely moving here, and we just kind of have to watch what's going on. We keep having these little like memory flashbacks, as you're seeing, where Mia's seeing things that happened in the past, and part of that's that Evie's able to give us hallucinations and make us see things. So now we're going to climb this little bit of a ladder here, which is fun. This isn't the tall ladder. This is like the second tallest ladder that we have to climb. And we got a nice little dead body here. He was not molded, apparently. And then there's a coin just hidden in the water right there. If we didn't pick that one up, this door right here is going to seal after we go through this section. So, for specific to 100%, we had another kind of cool routing change that happened last year. And I will not go up the other ladder twice. I refuse to do it again. There was another routing change that happened. I would come out of the right side of that room instead of coming over where we're at right now. And the reason for that is I would go and grab the 2 files that are down here and then pick up the handgun. So when we come back to present day, because we're about to watch a video that shows us the past, when we come back to present day, it would have given us the ability to have a handgun to destroy some Mr. Everywheres without having to do a bunch of extra work. But either Diatech or Clove, I do not recall which one of them it was that found it because they were kind of working together on it. They found that there was actually one of the bombs that's up on the 4th floor of the ship. So when we come back to it, I'm going to kind of point that out, but them finding that actually cut a lot of time off of the 100% route because we no longer had to do this extra stuff to either get that gun or wait till later after we picked up our inventory to come back up to be able to do that. So we'll see that here in a few minutes, but first we're going to go into the past, and this is where the Alan vomit skip is at. So we're going to have to kind of watch this little cutscene with the worst Resident Evil 7 character ever. God, he's just so terrible. Just so terrible. And fortunately, all of the skips on the ship, they were all basically things that made us not have to listen to Alan anymore. And it makes me so happy. Because I can't stand Alan. He's just terrible. He's absolutely terrible. But the first thing that we're going to do as soon as we gain control of Mia is we're going to run over and we're going to read this note that's in this area. And after we read the note, we're going to run out and do what everybody else normally does in an any percent. So read that and then we run out. The reason why we read that there is because we're kind of losing some time because it takes time for us to get to the door anyways. So we read it there instead of coming back to it later. Alright, now here is where the Alan skip happens. I don't think I got it. I got it! Okay. That was awesome. If we missed that skip, we would have lost 20 seconds at least off of the run. Possibly more. But we got it. I've been missing that like all week, so I'm like ridiculously excited right now that I actually hit that. That's one of those tricks that I really wanted to kind of be able to show off during the run. So now we're going to go ahead and pick up a few of our New Game Plus items. And we're going to grab our circular saw. We're going to try to destroy one of the legs here and not an arm, because this elevator deciding to close and let us get through here is going to be dependent on how long it takes for his death animation to happen. So like the doors would have waited until he was all the way dead before they moved. That kind of stuff happens throughout the game. It's really important in the Not a Hero DLC because there's a whole room where everything in the room is like dependent on the thing, like something dying before like the next thing spawns. But that's completely different run. Alright, so during this part, we're going to do the setup for the double door skip. We're going to put that bomb down right there. Now, I'm going to put away my gun because it makes me want to hit the reload button every time that I've gotten it. Or every time I have a gun out. And the reload button is actually what makes that bomb explode. So what we're going to do is, after we get through here, I'm going to pick up one of these corrosives. We're going to come over to this door and use the corrosive. We have to run behind this thing here in this room. Just barely run over and then get back around. You'll see the watch come up and it's going to kind of indicate to us that we've gone far enough. And then we're going to come back out of this room. Now that bomb is sitting there so that we can basically blow ourselves up and force ourselves through the double doors that we came through to get back, or to get down here. So we're going to do that right here. And we got it. There's two ways that that can happen. And basically, if you do it right, what we just had happen there is exactly what you would see. If we did it kind of bad, we would have been knocked all the way down, or there's also the possibility that we missed that trick entirely. But like you could blow up the thing, but I didn't put it close enough or something like that. So Alright, we got 2 headshots there. There's only one of them left. And 3rd headshot. Alright, so one of the things that we're gonna have to do here shortly is use a lug wrench that's in that inventory spot that I moved to. Just doing that right there is it's setting that inventory up. Like I mentioned earlier, everything in this game really does come down to like being ready for, you know, moving things around and just being prepared. So we kind of end this video in the past section the exact same way that you would see in any percent run. As soon as we see movement here, we're going to shoot. We didn't kill him, but he moved back far enough that he didn't block us. So that's still okay. And then we're going to go ahead, run upstairs to the same place that we ran to start this video up. And instead of watching a video this time, we're going to go see something else that's rather pleasant. Well, unpleasant, but it makes me happy. So we're going to come out here and we get to see Alan. Now, I kind of mentioned I don't like Alan, but the reason why I like this moment is because we don't have to see Alan after this moment. I know it's rude, it's crazy, it's mean, but it is what it is. I can't stand Alan. Yes, donate for anyone but Alan. No Alan charity. Absolutely not. I like that Chattergill. Headshot Oprah. I do like that. That's funny stuff right there. Alright, so yes, screw Alan. Alan is terrible. Goodbye, Alan. You've been a terrible, terrible human being. So right here, in addition to dealing with Alan and his issues, you know, which we learned right off the bat when we came in here, that this entire thing, Evelyn getting out and destroying everybody, and causing all of this chaos here, is all because Alan messed up, and it's all his fault. So more reason to not like him. But this is also the moment that we get to see Mia get infected by the mold, which is, I've made it an hour and something, 17 minutes into the game, and not even described that the mold is the version of the virus for this game. So this is the point where Mia is infected. It's not super important to the speedrun, but it is something that, you know, you might want to know if you're trying to figure out anything that's going on in the story here. Alright, so here we're going to get to the only time in the game that we can skip a cutscene, and it's because this is like a video, not an in-game, like it was pre-rendered. The problem with it is on the PlayStation 4, we're going to sit here for like a minute watching a black loading screen, because there's just, it takes forever to load the next thing, basically. It's not much faster on the Xbox, but it is faster. Each version of the Xbox gets quicker and quicker, but on the PlayStation, I've noticed on both the Slim and the Pro, it's pretty much like the same amount of time to load this. For whatever reason, Resident Evil 7 does not load great on the PS4. This load does still take some time, even on PC, but it's like not nearly as long as the Xbox or the PlayStation 4. So once this loads back in, we're going to be back to the present day playing as Mia, and we're going to get to go upstairs, and I get to show you not only the Metal Gear ladder of Resident Evil, but also I get to show you where this new bomb was found by, like I said, it was either Diatech or Clove. They were working on that together at the time, but whichever one of them it was that found it, they found this bomb in this location, and it's one that's like, it's really easy to miss it, so we'll have to check it out. Yes, it does depend on the performance of the PC. Obviously there's a little stream lag here, so that comment's catching up at that point, but alright, do the wrong warp. I love it. So this is a nice long ladder. There's like 34 or 35 rungs that we have to climb, if I remember correctly. And I told this story last year, but I'll tell it again. I was involved in a race once where I dropped down and forgot that I had already done this upstairs portion because it was like I don't know, it was like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and I was way too tired to be doing a race, and I climbed it twice. That was where Yassi's comment came from earlier. All right, so right here is that bomb that we didn't know existed up here. And that's going to save us so much time. So much time. Because we didn't have to go and find weapons elsewhere. So now we're going to come over here and destroy this Mr. Everywhere with it. We're going to put it right here. And... no, not that button. There we go. You kind of have to watch that in order to make sure that it actually explodes when you're doing a speedrun for this, because you can put that bomb directly next to the Mr. Everywhere and it won't explode sometimes. That is something that happens. So it's just one of those things that we kind of have to keep in mind as we're doing the run. Alright, so now we're going to drop down and we're going to go after something called the God Door here. It's not going to happen. I'm just going to let you all know that now. It's not going to happen. But if it did, I'd be only the second console runner to ever get it. We did not get it. So basically the God Door is running into that room and getting out of there before the door closes. It does not happen very often for console, but it is something you will see on PC a bit more often, just because of the way that they can move. So we're gonna come up here and grab this lockpick. It's gonna be necessary to get a coin later, and we're gonna grab one bomb. Come on, open. The game is deciding it wants to take forever. All right, we're gonna put that there, blow that up. There's another Mr. Everywhere, and we're gonna run out. So, like I said, that God Door thing, that's one of those, like, on PC, it's kind of easy to do. On console, it is not. Now we're going to run downstairs, and we're going to take that fuse that we put into this door back out of it. And we're going to run this direction. Hopefully we're not going to get hit by this crawler that's over here, but it's more likely that it's going to happen. He's kind of a jerk. There he is. And we're going to shut that door so he doesn't hit us again. Alright, so we got to read that file, and we have one more file right here. Now, one of the things that just I think is hilarious in this game is that there's all these random files that they make you read, but there's actually like 100 or more extra ones that are just laying around. So it always seemed just so arbitrary as to which ones they wanted us to pick up. There's not a lot of sense that's made. Because, like, you could even try to think, like, oh, well, maybe they were just doing ones that are important to the story. But, like, one of them is literally a receipt. And that's all it is just a receipt. So, that box takes a long time to unlock and open up. So, since we're going to have to run back through that hallway, we just kind of let it do its thing. We'll get a coin out of there when we come back through. Now, this is another one of those areas that actually was a time save that was found. This corrosive, we didn't know that was over there. There was a runner named Fela that actually let us know that was there. At the time, we were forced to do a puzzle with these paintings down on the second floor, where you had to, like, rotate these paintings to match up the way that they looked on the opposite wall, in order to unlock a safe where you could get extra corrosives. But because of Fela finding that particular corrosive, it completely took that extra puzzle out, which saved a good amount of time from this run. Now we gotta make sure that we get this coin, and I have to read this file in this elevator. I was doing some practice on this week and completely forgot to read this file because it's really easy to forget. There we go. That whole, like, part of a second there matters. Alright, so we got that. I should actually hit the right button. I guess I did something funky there. We're gonna come down here, and we're gonna basically run back to that same room earlier as Mia that we ran around. We got to the back of it and then came back out. Yes, wrong 4%. So if we're lucky here, this crawler is going to jump back to the right. He does not. So we're just going to kind of go around him. It really doesn't change anything for us in the grand scheme of things. It's maybe like a half a second time difference. But if we're fortunate, he jumps back into the right. It's like the Kennedy of speedrunning, I guess. So we're going to come down here and open this box. And this is going to give us our final coin for the game. And then we're going to run out and say hello to Ethan once again. He's going to wake up from his nap. He's got like a big, like, it looks like a giant bunch of mold all over him, but it's really just like a really cool VR set. And he's kind of like breaking it in by watching a video of Jack talking to him after he's like kind of attacked him the entire game. I make jokes. But I made this comment last year. I'll say it again for those of you that did not see my run last year. One of the things that's kind of funny about this little sequence, if you pay attention to behind Jack, the only things that Jack have that cast a shadow are exposed skin parts. So anywhere where his shirt or anything like that are at, they don't cast a shadow. So if you look behind him, you're going to notice like his neck and his upper chest areas kind of on the wall. And then you'll also notice his hand kind of casts a shadow, but it's like it casts a shadow on both the chair and the wall and his shirt all at the same time sometimes. They kind of overlooked some lighting things during this section. But this part of the game is really just kind of explaining to us kind of what happens to the people that get infected. You find out more or less that they're completely conscious on the inside and they know what's happening, but they can't stop themselves from doing the evil things that they're being forced to do. So it's kind of terrible. It reminds me of, if anybody's ever read the Flood from Halo, it kind of reminds me of, I think it was Jenkins in the Flood, that you kind of get to see him slowly lose himself in confusion to the, like when he gets infected by the Flood. Yeah, it always reminds me of that when I like think about what they talk about during this section. But it's a good book if you guys like books. Not Leroy Jenkins. But yeah, so this is kind of one of those moments. We get a little bit of story here. We see Zoe and we see Jack, and that's actually kind of a significant thing because it's been out for more than a year at this point, so you know, maybe spoiler is. But both of these characters show up in a DLC. The what do you call it? The which DLC is it? It's the End of Zoe DLC. I apologize. It took a moment for me to remember. I don't play that one very often, so I kind of forgot about it. But now we're waking up as Ethan, and this is our super sweet VR setup here. So like, we've got mold vision here. It's kind of fun. And yeah, we're gonna break out. Now earlier when I was talking about if we picked Zoe, we would have another boss fight with Mia. This would be the spot where we would end up having to fight Mia for the second time. And she's actually like, instead of being all friendly and being like, I'm gonna save you, like she is right now, if we picked Zoe, she literally is like, what the heck, dude? Like, you picked her over me? I'm your wife, dude. Like, I'm gonna kill you now. And then you pick up a crowbar and go Gordon Freeman all over. I mean, it's kind of crazy that's a thing. But I don't know. It's funny because like even though you picked her to heal, like she obviously got infected again, so now that was kind of all for naught, you know? But to be fair, if you pick Zoe after you cure her, she just dies anyways, so like you end up just with 2 dead people instead of 1. It's so weird how that works out. So now we're gonna go ahead and run as fast as we can to get into the salt mines. Now, I'm sure you've noticed by this point, Ethan has this thing about like falling down. He just loves to like jump off of things. Yeah, Half-Life 3 confirmed. It's in Resident Evil 7. There's like actually somewhere if you if you run a certain way and get the out of bounds working just the right way or something, like it starts up Half-Life 3. It's actually hidden in the game. So we're actually gonna like stay on the left side, like all the way up against the wall while we're running through this area, because it took us longer to get down into the water, and when you're in the water you have, you know, slower movement speed, so we stayed up against that left side so that we didn't get slowed down earlier. Alright. Now this is where we're going to finally get to use our coins that we've been picking up the whole run. We don't really need that backpack, so we're not going to get it, but we're going to pick up the grenade launcher, and we're going to do this. Alright. So now we're going to use our coins. And this is going to unlock a stabilizer and a steroid for us. And we're going to turn around and shoot that Mr. Everywhere. I think I've got 3 misses so far, so I think I'm still at $3. There we go, 3 headshots. And we're gonna go ahead and do this deal right here. So this is gonna take us down into the salt mines, and we're gonna go ahead and use these two, the stabilizer and the steroid that we already picked up. There's one more steroid that we have to pick up before the end of the run, and yeah, once we get that one, that's the last of those. So all we have left at this point is are a couple Mr. Everywheres and a steroid and some files. Yeah, had to remember. All right, so we're gonna shoot that guy, because if we shot him any earlier, we would have hit invincibility frames. Again, every single enemy in this game is just dumb and has them. I thought we were about to escape getting hit there, but we didn't, which is okay. I'm not mad about it. I had a moment there where I was getting ready to throw a grenade, because that's what you do in Not a Hero. This little area just right here is actually like the starting area for the Not a Hero speedrun, or the Not a Hero DLC for this game. So that's kind of cool. Normally I would kill that guy back there, but for some reason I decided not to. I was being friendly. We're going to use our mediumly accurate G17 to blow up a couple boxes. We're going to come over here and we're going to make sure to shoot this little dude, because I miss him. Like, forget to do anything with him so much. He has literally been the bane of my 100% existence. He just, oh my lord, with how terrible I have been at forgetting to break that fucking Mr. Everywhere. Trying to say words that are not cussing there. That's how much I get mad about that one, though. Oh, I already read it. Let's grab this. Yeah, that Mr. Everywhere has ruined, I mean, like, some serious PB runs. Alright. So, we're gonna carry on. Let me think, let's see. We have this last retry that's coming up here in just a moment. And this one is probably the one that you're going to notice the most difference in speed. So if you notice how fast we're moving right now, it's not really. We're kind of going slow. But when we come up here, we're going to go ahead and pause a little early. There we go. And we're going to hit retry. Now when we come back in, we're going to be moving a lot faster than what we are currently. And like I said, it's going to be pretty noticeable. That I did a comparison video that kind of showed the time save, and it's something like 13 seconds just on the ascent through the salt mines that you're going to save, just because we hit retry there. And now we're going to go ahead and blow through all of these molded. There we go. Got 1 and 2. That guy, because he's one of the ones with the blade arms, doesn't die to one single headshot. You always have to hit him twice. Then we got that guy. And then we're going to shoot this one. Oh. Had an extra shot there. That was unfortunate. Went to the wrong gun for a minute there. We're going to change over to the correct ammo. And we're going to use this neuro round. You haven't got to see me use this grenade launcher at all. We're going to use this neuro round to freeze the both of these guys in place because they can like throw up at distance and they would knock me off of this ladder if I didn't stun lock them appropriately. The reason why you go faster is when the game loads back in, it just forgets that you're supposed to be moving at a slower speed. So it kind of sets you at the maximum outdoor running speed for this area, which is significantly quicker than what the regular speed is here. So this is our last Mr. Everywhere and our last steroid. And we have officially done all of our 100% items. Now it's just finishing out the run. We'll make sure, I mean, obviously, if I missed something, we're going to find that out at the end of this, at the end game stat screen. The only thing that we won't necessarily know for sure is the Mr. Everywheres. So if somebody was keeping track of those, that would be cool to know if I did get them all. I think I did. I don't believe I missed any of them this time. It does happen. Like, I've run this category so many times, and I still, like, my last full run of this, I missed one of them, so it's one of those things that drives me crazy. Because I know, like, getting it would only take, like, an extra second or something, but I can't, you know, have my PB because of it. So, anyways, we're going to go ahead and come over this way and see Evie one more time down here. And we're going to do something that I feel like is kind of a bad idea. We're going to show her that we have what's necessary to kill her, which kind of sucks. I mean, I wouldn't tell her until, like, I was right next to her. But obviously Ethan has a whole different idea of how to handle his situation that he's in. Just, I don't know. It's weird to me. So we're going to kind of dip into the left a little bit to get Mia to run straight at us. It makes it easier to get around her to go here. And we don't do bomb strat because bomb strat takes more time than doing the bombless strat. So we're going to go ahead and block this. And now we're going to come in. We're just going to kind of run at a slight angle. And we got through that blast in a single deal there. I don't know, like we got the one cycle. That's what that's called. It took a moment for my brain to catch up with what I was doing. That's the one cycle without the bomb. And if you get, like, we used to do that where you would blow yourself up to go through that blast that she does there, but by not grabbing the bomb, you're not wasting the time to get a bomb earlier in that earlier in the run. Like, it takes an extra couple seconds to go after the bomb. So, like, I've gone and taken and, like, frame checked how long it takes to do bombless compared to the bomb strat during the actual, like, getting to Evie there. And doing the bomb strat is, like, 3 or 4 frames quicker in the moment, but you lose a couple seconds earlier in the run getting the bomb in the first place. So you actually lose time doing bomb strat over doing the bombless one cycle. So the main reason why I, like, fought so hard to find one cycle on that, and that was, like, one of the things that I figured out how to do, is I was terrible at bomb strat, and every time I would go and do it, I would blow myself, like, backwards, or I wouldn't be close enough or something. It was always unfortunate for me. So I was like, all right, we got to do something to get rid of this, and that got us to bombless. So all of these things that I'm doing where I'm shooting this final boss really is unnecessary. You don't actually have to damage her at all during this section. The first time that we have to do anything is when she picks us up here in a second. And that's going to be that we're going to have to, like, use the saw to quickly get out of her grasp. And we're out. This final boss fight, pretty much one of the easiest things, easiest boss fights that you'll ever have, but I don't know. It's cool. It's cool. So there, in true Resident Evil fashion, somebody dropped a weapon in that we have to use. Now this is going to look like the Albert pistol that we've been using the entire run, but that Albert pistol is like a variant of this that is like a New Game Plus item. This is actually like the really strong super weapon that, you know, can obviously kill Evelyn. And that was our final boss fight. So time's going to come here in just a moment when the screen fades to black. I'll kind of announce that it's time when it happens, and then we'll wait for the end of game results screen to show up so that we can see what my time was, IGT, and make sure that we actually got all of our items. So while this is happening, I want to give a big shout out to the entire Resident Evil 7 community. I see a lot of you guys in chat right now. We have an amazing group of people, and you know, our Discord is a very accepting place. If anybody is interested in doing this speedrun, no, it's time, by the way, I forgot to say it. If anybody is interested in learning how to do this speedrun, everybody in our community is incredibly friendly. We all, obviously, some people have their moments, but for the most part, about 99% of the time, we've got a very open and friendly community. So if you ever wanted to do this run, we have plenty of people that would be willing to show you and teach you how to do this. So we've got 32 files, 4 steroids, 2 stabilizers, 20 Mr. Everywheres, 136.26. That's 6 seconds behind world record, and it would be a PB for me. My current, well, now old PB was 136.41. So I just want to say thank you to Strizer, thank you to the Resident Evil 7 guys, thank you to everybody that's watching Game Over Cancer tonight, and I hope that we hit that 1500. That's amazing that we've gotten as far as we have. So everybody have a wonderful night, and thank you for letting me